Every day you go to work, come back home, and do the responsible thing with your money. You don't gamble. You don't blow money on designer clothes. You don't drive a car you can't afford. By every reasonable standard, you're doing fine with your money. So why does it feel like your bank account is leaking? Here's what nobody tells you. The biggest money drains in your life aren't the obvious ones. They're not the impulse buys or the bad investments. They're the small, completely normal habits that feel so harmless, so routine, so everyone does this, that you never once stopped to question them. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous. Not because they're expensive, but because they're invisible. They hide inside your daily routine disguised as convenience, kindness, common sense, and even responsibility. And every single month, they quietly move money out of your life without ever triggering a single alarm. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 of these habits. Some of them you'll recognize immediately. Others are going to make you uncomfortable because you'll realize you've been defending them your whole life. Let's get into it. Number 1, paying for convenience without thinking. Let's start with the one that hides in plain sight. Delivery fees. You order food through an app. The meal costs $15, but by the time you've added the delivery fee, the service charge, the small order fee, and the tip, you're paying $25 to $30. That's almost double. And it didn't feel like a decision. It felt like a Tuesday night. Multiply that by 3 times a week. That's roughly $30 to $45 a week in fees alone. Not the food, just the convenience of not leaving your couch. Over a year, that's $1,500 to $2,300 in charges that didn't buy you a single extra bite of food. And it's not just food delivery, it's express shipping because you didn't want to wait 2 extra days. It's ride-hailing instead of taking a 10-minute walk. It's paying $3 more at the corner store because the supermarket is a 5-minute drive away. None of these feel like financial decisions. That's the problem. But convenience has become an entire economy, built on the assumption that you won't do the math. And you don't. Because each one feels like nothing. But nothing 3 times a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year is not nothing. It's thousands. And the worst part is you'll never notice it missing. Because it never left in one big chunk. It left in 100 tiny ones that you already forgot about. Number 2, keeping subscriptions. Just in case. Here's one almost everyone is guilty of. You signed up for a streaming service to watch one show. You finished the show, and now you're paying $15 a month for a platform you open once every 6 weeks to scroll for 10 minutes before watching nothing and going to bed. But you don't cancel. Because what if something good comes out next month? What if you need it later and have to sign up again, so you keep it, just in case? And it's not just one subscription, it's the fitness app you used for 2 weeks in January, the cloud storage upgrade you needed once for a single file, the music tier you bumped up for one road trip. Each one is $5, $10, $15 a month. Each one feels insignificant on its own. But pull up your bank statement right now and count them. Most people are shocked. Studies suggest the average person underestimates their monthly subscription spending by $100 or more. That's money leaving your account on autopilot for services you're barely using, and the whole system is designed that way. And here's where it gets even more calculated. Let's say you finally decide to cancel. You hit the button and suddenly you're looking at an offer. Wait, how about 3 months for the price of one? Or we'd hate to see you go, here's 70% off your next 3 months. And it works, because the deal feels too good to pass up. So you stay. Not because you need it, but because the discount made it feel wasteful to leave. That's the trap inside the trap. The subscription was already draining you silently, and when you finally tried to stop the bleeding, they handed you a smaller bandage and convinced you the wound was worth keeping. The hard truth is this. If you need to be bribed to stay, you didn't need the service in the first place. Cancel it. If you actually miss it in a month, you can always sign up again. But most people never do, because they never actually needed it. They just couldn't handle the feeling of letting go. Number 3. Buying things on sale you didn't need. This one is going to sting. Because it doesn't just feel harmless, it feels smart. You walk into a store or open a website and see something marked down from $100 to $60. Your brain immediately does the math. I'm saving $40, and that feels like a win. But here's what your brain didn't calculate. You weren't going to buy that thing. You didn't walk in looking for it. You didn't need it yesterday, and you wouldn't have thought about it tomorrow. The only reason it exists in your mind is because someone put a red tag on it. You didn't save $40. You spent $60 you weren't going to spend. And retailers know this. The original price is often inflated specifically so the sale price feels like a deal. It's a manufactured comparison designed to trigger the rush of getting a bargain. Research on consumer behavior has shown that discounts actually change how your brain processes a purchase. You stop evaluating whether you need the item and start evaluating whether the deal is good. The question shifts from, do I want this, to, is this worth it at this price? Those are two completely different questions, but your brain treats them as the same one. This is why people come home from sales with bags full of things they never planned to buy and call it saving money. The sale didn't save you anything. It recruited you. It turned you from someone who wasn't going to spend money into someone who did, and made you feel smart about it. The fix isn't avoiding sales entirely. It's asking one question before every purchase. Would I buy this at full price? If the answer is no, you don't want the product. You want the feeling of getting a deal. And that feeling has a price tag you're not tracking. Number 4. Not comparing prices because it's only a small difference. This is the one that gets dismissed the fastest. Because the amounts are so small, it feels ridiculous to even think about them. What's the difference between a $3 brand and a $4 brand? $1. Who cares? You do. Or at least your bank account does. That $1 difference is on one item in one shopping trip. But you're making this same calculation on dozens of items every single week. Groceries, household supplies, coffee, fuel, online purchases. And each time, you default to whatever is easiest or most familiar, not whatever is cheapest. Over the course of a year, these micro differences add up to hundreds of dollars. Not because any single one mattered, but because the pattern repeats hundreds of times, and it goes way beyond groceries. When was the last time you compared your car insurance quote with another provider? Your phone plan? Your internet bill? Most people set these up once. And then just pay. Whatever shows up every month for years. But $20 a month on insurance you never re-quoted, plus $15 a month on a phone plan you could downgrade, plus $10 a month in bank fees you could eliminate. That's $540 a year for doing nothing except checking once. The habit isn't being careless with big purchases. Most people are careful when the price tag is large. The habit is being completely careless with the small ones because each one feels meaningless. But your money doesn't care whether it left in one big decision or 500 small ones. It's gone either way. Number 5. Leaving money sitting in a regular savings account. Now here's one that's going to feel like a personal attack. Because this isn't a bad habit. This is what responsible people do. You save money. You put it in a savings account. You watch the number grow. You feel good about it. And that feeling of being responsible is exactly why this one is so dangerous. Here's what's actually happening. Inflation has been running anywhere from 3 to 7% in recent years, depending on where you live. Your regular savings account is probably paying you somewhere between 0.5 and 2% interest, which means every single year the money sitting in that account buys less than it did the year before. You're not growing your money, you're losing it in slow motion. And the cruelest part is, your balance keeps going up, so it doesn't look like you're losing anything. The number is bigger. But what that number can actually buy is shrinking. Let's put real numbers on this. If you have $10,000 earning 1%, interest and inflation is running at 4%. You're effectively losing 3% of your purchasing power every year. After 5 years, your $10,000 still looks like $10,500 on paper, but in terms of what it can actually buy, it's closer to $8,500. You lost $2,000 in real value while feeling like you were doing the right thing. Now, I'm not saying don't have savings. You need accessible cash for emergencies. That's real and that matters. But parking large amounts of money in a basic savings account for years, thinking it's safe, that's not safety. That's slow erosion disguised as responsibility. The money you don't need in the next 6 to 12 months should be somewhere it can at least keep pace with inflation, whether that's a high-yield savings account, index funds, bonds, or other instruments that match your risk tolerance. The principle is universal. Money that sits still in a low-interest account isn't being saved. It's slowly being spent by inflation. Number 6, lending money to people and never asking for it back. This one doesn't feel like a money habit at all. It feels like being a good person, and that's why it's on this list. Your friend forgot their wallet, you cover lunch. Your cousin needs $30 for something urgent. You send it immediately. The group dinner bill comes and it's easier to just split it evenly, even though your meal was half the price of everyone else's. So you pay your share, say nothing, and move on. Each one of these moments is small. Each one feels generous, and each one is money you'll never see again. Not because people are malicious, but because small debts are socially invisible. Nobody tracks them, and the discomfort of asking for $15 back from a friend feels worse than just absorbing the loss. So you absorb it, again and again. The problem isn't any single instance. The problem is the pattern. When you're the person who always covers, always rounds up, always says don't worry about it, you become the person who's expected to do it. It stops being generosity and starts being a role. And that role costs you hundreds of dollars a year. And here's the psychological layer underneath. Most people don't ask for money back because they don't want to be seen as cheap. They'd rather lose the money than risk the social discomfort, which means the real cost isn't the $20. It's the fact that your discomfort with confrontation is being funded directly from your wallet every single time. This doesn't mean you should become the person who Venmo requests your friend for $4, but it does mean you should be honest about how much this habit actually costs you. Track it for 1 month. Write every amount down. Most people are genuinely shocked by the total. Because it was never one big moment. It was 50 small ones they chose to forget. Number 7. Treating yourself regularly. Here's one that starts with a perfectly healthy idea and slowly turns into a financial leak without you ever noticing the shift. You had a hard week at work. You deserve something nice. So you go out for a good dinner, or buy that jacket you've been eyeing, or order something online as a little reward. And honestly, that's fine. You worked hard, you earned it. The problem is what happens next. The Friday dinner becomes every Friday. The one nice thing after a tough week becomes a weekly ritual. The treat is no longer a treat, it's a line item. But it still carries the emotional label of being a reward, which means it never gets questioned the way a regular expense would. This is what behavioral economists call hedonic adaptation. The first time you treat yourself, it feels special, but your brain adjusts quickly. So next time, you need to spend a little more, do it a little more often, just to get the same feeling. And the whole time, you don't think of it as increased spending. You think of it as self-care. That's the shield this habit hides behind. It wraps itself in the language of mental health and self-worth, which makes it almost impossible to challenge. But there's a big difference between treating yourself and building a spending pattern you never consciously chose. The question isn't whether you deserve nice things. You do. The question is whether this is still a decision, or has it become an automatic habit your brain labeled self-care so you'd never examine the price tag? Number 8. Eating out for lunch at work every day. This is one of the most expensive habits on this list, and it survives for one simple reason. It doesn't feel like a financial decision. It feels like eating. You're hungry. You go get food. End of thought process. But let's run the numbers. A typical bought lunch costs somewhere between $10 and $18. Let's say $12. That's $60 a week, $240 a month, roughly $3,000 a year on lunch. Compare that to bringing food from home. Even at $5 a day, you're spending $25 a week instead of $60. That's a difference of $1,800 a year from one meal. And here's what makes this habit so persistent. It's not just about the food. It's the ritual of stepping away from your desk, going somewhere, choosing something. It feels like freedom in the middle of a structured day, and that emotional value is real, which is why people defend this habit so aggressively. But the emotional value doesn't change the financial math. You can take the break without spending $12. The ritual doesn't require a transaction. Your brain just linked the two so tightly that they feel inseparable. Nobody is saying never eat out, but doing it every single day without ever doing the annual math, that's not a lifestyle choice. That's an unexamined habit running on autopilot. And autopilot is where most money leaks live. Number 9, upgrading when the old one still works. Every year a new phone comes out. Slightly faster, slightly better camera, a new feature you'll use maybe twice. And suddenly, the phone in your pocket, The one that was perfectly fine yesterday feels outdated. So you upgrade. Not because it's broken, not because it can't do what you need, but because the new one exists. And that's enough. This extends far beyond phones. It's the laptop that still runs fine but is a few years old. The car that works perfectly but doesn't have the latest features. The pattern is always the same. A functional item gets mentally downgraded the moment a newer version is announced, and the financial impact is massive. A new phone every year instead of every 3 or 4 costs thousands over a decade. A new car every 3 years instead of running it for 8 or 10 is one of the biggest wealth destroyers in most people's lives. Not because the purchase is irresponsible, but because the frequency is. Companies spend billions engineering this exact feeling. It's called planned psychological obsolescence. They're not selling you a better product, they're selling you the discomfort of having the old one. And it's socially reinforced. When everyone around you upgrades, keeping the old model starts to feel like a statement. Like you can't afford it. Like you're behind. The reality is this. The person who keeps their phone for 4 years, drives their car for 10, and uses their laptop until it genuinely can't keep up. That person is quietly saving tens of thousands over their lifetime. Not by sacrificing quality, but by refusing to replace things that still do their job just because something newer showed up. Number 10, paying bills late. Not because you can't, because you forget. This is the last one, and in some ways it's the most frustrating. The money is there, it's sitting in the account, but the bill didn't get paid on time because you forgot, got busy, or kept saying, "I'll do it tomorrow." And it seems like no big deal. A late fee here and there, maybe $25 or $35, annoying but not life-changing, right? Except it's not just the late fee, it's what the late fee triggers. Late payments can be reported to credit bureaus, and once your credit score takes a hit, everything that depends on credit gets more expensive. Higher interest on your next loan, higher credit card rates, more expensive car financing, even insurance premiums can increase. So that $35 late fee on an electricity bill you forgot about, it could cost you hundreds or thousands in higher rates over the next few years. Not because you couldn't pay, but because you didn't pay on time. And the system doesn't care about the reason. It only cares about the date. This is what I call a laziness tax. And it compounds. Once your credit score dips, you're paying a premium on everything that involves borrowing or financing. And most people never connect the dots. They don't realize the slightly higher rate on their car loan traces back to 2 utility bills they forgot to pay 8 months ago. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Set up autopay for every recurring bill, every single one. It takes about 30 minutes to set up and it runs forever. That 30 minutes protects you from late fees, credit damage, and the slow financial bleeding that comes from something as fixable as forgetfulness. If there's one habit on this list where the gap between how easy it is to fix and how much damage it causes is the widest, it's this one. You have the money. Just make sure it leaves on time. So there they are. 10 completely innocent habits that are quietly draining your money every single month. Convenience fees that add up to thousands. Subscriptions you forgot you're paying for. Sale prices that trick you into spending. Small price differences you ignored. Savings accounts that are slowly losing value. Money you lent and never saw again. Treats that stopped being treats. Lunches that cost more than you think. Upgrades you didn't need. And bills that were late for no good reason. None of these habits feel like financial mistakes. That's the whole point. They survive because they feel normal. Because everyone does them. Because questioning them feels petty or paranoid. But the money doesn't care how the habit feels. It only cares that it left your account. And when you add up all 10 together, the real number is probably enough to make you rethink your entire daily routine. You don't need to earn more money to have more money. Sometimes you just need to stop. The leaks. And now you know where to look. If this opened your eyes to even one habit you didn't realize was costing you, hit that like button. And if you want more content that makes you think differently about your money, subscribe to My Wealth Logic. Because the habits that keep you broke don't look like bad decisions. They look like everyday life. I'll see you in the next one.